All right, everybody, let me get this cleaned up. Let's see. All right, so I've cut this down a little bit. I'm gonna breeze through it because a lot of it is repeat of the NIMS, and you should already have done NIMS. So we'll breeze through this. It's about 50 slides. I'll try to make it short and simple. I'm not gonna read all the slides. I'm not gonna. Y'all can go back and read it. Be sure you read your book. Um, National Registry, one of the subscales is operations, so you are going to have to answer some questions about this stuff. So be sure you know it. All right, so I'm going to kind of go over safety, crew management, driving the ambulance, warning devices, that sort of stuff. Common sense stuff. You'll learn a lot of this with your whoever you go work for, but also you need to know because it, like I said, it will be on the test. So um, this statement doesn't really make sense because think about what an ambulance is, and when you ride in the back of one, you'll realize why this statement does not make sense. An ambulance should be a place of comfort and support to patients. It's not comfortable. The cot's not very comfortable. They're either the ambulances could be the van style, the Sprinter style. They're real small and tight, or they could be the larger ones like what we have at work, or they can be the big ones like Plano used to run, or that have the big like Freightliner, Kenworth, international front ends. Those the big ones. They can be all different sizes, but they all have the same thing. They're rough in the back. No matter what, I mean, you're driving down the road. It's going to be rough. You can put air system on it. You can put liquid spring like what we have. They're still a little rough. They help, but they're still uncomfortable. And if you hit a bump, they're going to feel it. Trust me. So, the 5-step assertive statement process. Guys, just read through this stuff. I'll hit a couple of them, but actually, I'm not reading any of that. So, the crew resource management. I have a feeling this is going to be something that they have test questions on. 5 factors to it are communication, situational awareness, decision making, teamwork, and barriers. Uh, Effective use of it can reduce errors in patient care and better protect the safety of for us, the EMS personnel, patient, and the public. Um, know your laws, your regulations, and your ordinance. Go back to the chapter over legal. Be sure you know it. At least do the handout. Go back over the handout. If you need the handout, I can try to get it for you. I can get with Billy and Gary and try to get it for you. But at least go back over the handout. Go over the back of what's in the back of the chapter summary, that sort of stuff. If there's certain laws that they talk about, probably a good idea to know them if they bring them up in the book, because you might be tested on them. So there's never a reason to operate an ambulance unsafely. And remember, we'll go over a little bit further in this, but remember, just because you have your lights and sirens on does not mean you have the road. You're requesting due regard. You're requesting that they yield the right of way to you, but it does not give you the right to drive 90 miles an hour and blow through red lights and stop signs and everything else. Keep that in mind. So, obviously, you need to have a driver's license. You must be able to drive it in an emergency situation. Use the lights, the horns, all that. Exercise due regard. So, a lot of people I've talked to in these classes, they think that this is you're a offensive driver, when you're driving code, you're driving offensively and driving aggressively. That is completely wrong. When you're driving code, yes, you're driving fast, but you're in a defensive mode. And one of the best things, I took an EVOC class when I first started with the East Texas EMS, and one of the deals in that EVOC class that still sticks with me, and I do it when I'm driving my personal car, when I'm driving the fire trucks, when I'm driving the ambulances, everything, is when you're driving, you're not looking right in front of you. You're scanning out and seeing what's about to happen. And when people get in wrecks, it's because they're looking right in front of them. You need to be, you need to be able to have that field of vision in front of you and watch, especially if you have cars right in front of you. But you also need to be kind of scanning. Always scan. And I like to go mirror, front, mirror, mirror, front, mirror. And that way I can kind of get an idea. I can still see the car in front of me. And another thing that I was told, it's great advice. When you're driving, ambulance, whatever, stop far enough back behind the car in front of you that you can see the bottom, you can see their back tires touching the ground. If you can do that, you've got plenty of room to get out. If you need to get out, you've got enough space where if you get rear-ended, you're not going to slam into them real hard. You still might hit them, but you're not going to slam into them real hard. It's a great rule of thumb. And if you're driving code, and I'll give you a little trick, the pedestrian crosswalks, the little white guy that walks, the little white light guy that walks, if you're driving code and you see that dude and he changes to red with a timer, a countdown timer, when that timer hits 0, it's changing to yellow. So keep that in mind. That's a really good, I finally figured that out. I was driving the engine one day and I was like, it's like a light bulb went off and I was like, oh, they coordinate. I was like, oh, duh. So keep that in mind. So you're gonna wear your seatbelts. You're in practice driving. If you've never driven it, trust me, they'll give you time to practice driving. You'll have to go through EVOC. But when you get out, ask your partner, say, hey, do you mind, we're not doing anything. Can we run over here to the parking lot and drive around? Use your headlights. A lot of times they come on their own, but if they don't, turn them on. And just exercise caution. That's people don't hear the siren anymore because their music's too loud, or they just choose to ignore you, or when you're driving code, they'll stop right in front of you, or they'll pull out right in front of you. But 9 times out of 10, they're going to stop right in front of you. They forgot that pull to the right and slow down thing. Slow down on curves. Don't brake check on a curve. Slow down. If you see a curve coming, like when I start getting close to one, kind of ease off the gas and I'll ease on the brake just a little bit, kind of slow me down so I can take it gradually. And then kind of as I come out, I'll accelerate a little bit, and be smooth with your braking. One thing to remember is if you have your partner in the back, if it's rough in the front, it's 10 times worse in the back. So again, don't be aggressive. Use a police escort as a last resort. I've never asked for one. Sometimes they just jump up in front of us and do it. It's especially on shooting victims. They've done it a lot. So, but remember, this is defensive driving, not offensive aggressive. So intersections, they're your most dangerous. So when you come up to a red light intersection, you need to come up and stop and clear each lane. And so sometimes what I'll do is if I can't see all the lanes to clear them to go, I'll pull out to the first lane. As soon as I clear the first one, I'll pull out a little bit. Then the second one, then pull out a little bit more. Then the third one, then pull out a little bit more. Then the fourth one, then pull out a little bit more, or however many. And once I know it's clear, then I'll go. But there's been many a times I've sat right in the middle of an intersection because I was waiting for cars to stop, and I've known several people that have gotten tagged in a intersection, and usually it happens when you're working a code because you're in a hurry to get them to the hospital and stuff. So that's usually when it happens. So, rainy weather, remember, it takes twice as long to stop these big trucks. Maintain a safe distance and drive a little bit slower. You know, 30-second, getting there 30 seconds faster is not going to make a difference. Drive a little bit slower. You can't help somebody if you get hurt getting there. So, if it's super dark or super foggy and or whatever, use your flashers. Always use the low beams. Obviously, if you're going to brake and you know that visibility is zero, start pumping your brakes a little bit so they can see those lights in the back. Driving at night, use your high beams when you need to. You know, simple things. All right. Warning devices can't save time. It'll save 30 seconds to a minute. Now, obviously, people say, well, if they've coded, that'll make a difference. Well, yeah, you're right, but we don't run codes all the time. And always exercise due regard. You're asking for permission to drive in front of somebody or take their turn at the stop sign or whatever. So, colors and markings, we know what those are for. Warning lights, we know what those are for. When you're sitting up on the highway, turn your lights, just turn your parking lights on and you don't need your front light bar on. Turn your front light bar off. That actually might be a test question on National Registry. So if it asks something about that, you might need to do that. When you're using a siren and the air horn, at least for the state of Texas, you have to change your siren pattern when you come up to a intersection. You have to make a change so people can hear you. They can't hear you anyways, but you have to be sure to set up a safe working area if you can. As far as car wrecks, if I'm on the box, I always pull in front. And fire department should be coming. They can set up, PD can set up behind it. But if I get tagged on the highway in my ambulance, then I can't help anybody. So I'd rather them hit the already wrecked out cars than destroy my ambulance. Keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that, lights, you need to wear your vest, which we talk about here. But those lights on the back too will blind somebody, but I don't ever turn those off. So here's the vest. This second statement, they have all these numbers and stuff, so I kind of figure that's going to be on a test. You might want to go ahead and write that down or something. I have a feeling that might pop up somewhere on a test. Just know you have to wear a high vis apparel or vest when you're on the highway. Don't trust traffic. If you, for some reason, if cones set out, which I don't know any ambulances that carry cones, if you have cones set out, when you're setting them out, walk towards traffic so you can see what's going on, and when you're picking them up, start at the farthest point. And I like to walk backwards so I can always keep my eye on traffic. That's where it says at night, turn off your vision impairing lights. I will say that's a test question too. I remember something about that on my National Registry, and on several tests I've had. So, when you're approaching a potential hazmat call, tanker truck, stuff like that, approach uphill, upwind. And I like to use the thumb method. If I get out and I can hold my thumb up and I can cover the scene, I'm far enough away. If I get out and I can see the scene around my thumb, I'm too close. Now that I'm on the fire department, it's a little different, but when I was private EMS, that's how I would do it. Cops will be blowing by you. Let the little blue canaries go. Let them go, and then you'll have to go get them later. So because they'll run up in there and then fall over because it's some type of hazardous gas. All right, so you're always going to check your vehicle, check your equipment, contact dispatch, tell them you're in service. You're in tell them when you're en route, at scene, en route to the hospital, at the hospital, uh, and back at the station. Know your maintenance. We don't do maintenance, so we have basic vehicle maintenance. So kind of know that. Look up on that. Pre-runs, it says pre-run when you get there to start your shift. All right, so there's several slides that have list of things you're going to check. I'm not reading them all off because it's kind of common sense stuff too. Medical supplies, same thing. You're going to check all your stuff. Make sure all your stuff's good to go. It's real embarrassing when you get to a scene and you need something and you don't have it. Check your PPE. Obviously, you're going to have that. Your routes, if you have pre-planned routes like in a GPS system or something, and make sure you have a map book. I use my phone. There's apps now, Active 911 and several other apps that dispatch can send you the information. And Active 911, a lot of them have a mapping system where it uses Google Maps or whatever it uses, but it'll tell you how to get there now. But always keep a street map, like paper copy street map, because phones don't always work. Those apps don't always work, and that way you can. We still have them in our ambulance, and I look at the map before I leave the station every single time. We have 2 big ones on the wall. So, dispatch will get the call first. Obviously, it goes through dispatch and then it comes out to you. Make sure all your doors are shut. Can't tell you how much equipment's fallen on the side of the road from people that run out with the doors open, or how many doors have been knocked off because they haven't shut them. Seatbelt, listen for updates, kind of pre-plan what you're going to. Try to get information, request ALS if you feel like you need it. Get out, be scene safe, all that. Remember, uphill, upwind. See where the EMS unit is and where the wreck is. You'll have a bunch of people already stopped here 9 times out of 10, and I would still wait until it's clear to go in. Let fire department get there. They've got air packs. They can do that stuff. Go in there and make sure it's safe. You don't have any of that, so remember, the main thing is for you to go home safe to your family. You need to get triage patients. You need to get head count. Provide treatment if you need to, and move them to the box. Make sure they're seat belted into the cot. What I like to tell them is, if they don't want to wear the seatbelts, I'll tell them, hey, look, it's just like a car. You have to wear your seatbelts. If we get pulled over by a cop, you're getting a ticket, not me. And then they usually don't have any issue. They're surprised that I say that, and I'm like, look, we can get pulled over, if it happens. And I've never had it happen, but all right. You'll give your patient report, clean your stuff up, and refuel on your way back if you need to. Be sure to wash your hands, obviously. After each run, restock if you need to. Shower, change clothes if you need to. Dispose of sharps. Again, wash your hands. Decon it if you need to. If you need call for a bird, prolonged extrication, a long transport time, you're in a remote area, you can't ground pound. If you need their special equipment, a lot of aircraft carry blood, stuff like that. They can do chest tubes, things like that. They've had stroke. If they're having a stroke, head injury, chest trauma, it'll be a lot of protocol stuff. Your protocols will dictate what you can fly and what you can't. Uh, you will request air through dispatch. Dispatch will request it, but here's a list of stuff that if for some reason you have to call, you have to. I've never called in my entire career, and I've been doing it since I was 16. I've never called direct for an aircraft. Here are some things to uh, keep in mind. Um, you're going to want a minimum 60 by 60 for day and 100 by 100 for night landing zone. That is 9 times out of 10 going to be a test question on the National Registry. Make sure your landing zone's clear of debris. It'll get either blown out into your scene or it'll get sucked up into the bird's motor. Um, you you might have to. We have ground markers, little strobe lights, but if you don't, you might have to use apparatus, and you can tell them, hey, you're going to land between the ambulance and the fire truck, or you're going to land between the two cop cars, or whatever. Give them as much information as you can. Tell them, hey, you got power lines to the east, you got trees to the west, you need to come in from the north, and whatever. Uh, give them as much information about the landing zone as you can. When it comes to terrorist attacks and stuff like that, y'all can read this. I think it goes a little deep for what we're going over right now. Um, some these big companies can track your ambulance. They can know where you're at, and they can remotely shut it down. Don't If you get out at the hospital, lock your ambulance. If you're at the station, close the bay door. Um, keep a key log. Safeguard your uniforms, your ID tags. A lot of people go to uniform stores and buy all this stuff. They don't check for work IDs when you go to the uniform store. Um, be aware of carbon monoxide. If you have a generator on your truck because you have a gas unit and not a diesel unit, 9 times out of 10 you'll have a small generator. If the wind's right, you can open the side door, have that generator running, and suck all that exhaust into the patient compartment. Especially if you have the side door and the back door open, it creates a draft, and you can suck it right in, and you'll set off the. If you have a CO monitor, it'll set it off. Close the rear windows. I keep them closed, and I always keep the AC on because I'm always hot. So, ambulance crashes kill and injure many EMTs, patients, and others. If you run a red light and you fail to stop and do it properly, and you run a red light, you can be held liable. You can get the ticket. I've known people that have gotten a ticket because they caused a wreck because they run the red light, even if they're running code. It does not give you the right to fly through it at 90 miles an hour. You have to stop. You're requesting permission from the other drivers. And that's it.